Chicago Tonight, Black Voices is made possible in part by Fifth Third Bank and by the support of these donors.
At Fifth Third, we believe when diverse voices are heard and empowered, communities are made stronger, lives are made better, and the future holds greater promise for all. That's why we're proud to support Chicago Tonight Black Voices. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can drive change.
Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight Black Voices. I'm Brandis Friedman and thanks for sharing part of your weekend with us. On the show tonight, bridging the digital divide, a growing push to get more people online, and what new data reveals about internet disparities in Chicago. We're one-on-one with Justice Lisa Holder White, the first black woman set to serve on the Illinois Supreme Court. We introduce you to the Chicago Symphony Orchestra's composer in residence.
I love coffee. I am very passionate about my daily routines of coffee.
And the owner of Chicago French Press shares her passion for creating unique coffee blends and how her business is expanding in tonight's The Last Word. First off tonight, there's a renewed effort to get more people online and bring high-speed internet to more families across the country. The Biden administration is announcing a federal program that could make tens of millions of households eligible for free internet. The move comes as the COVID pandemic highlighted inequities in internet access as families switch to remote working and learning. Here's what Vice President Kamala Harris had to say this week.
In the 21st century, access to the internet is essential for success. Every person in our nation, no matter how much they earn, should be able to afford high-speed internet and a high-speed internet plan.
Meanwhile, researchers at the University of Chicago are analyzing internet access throughout the city in hopes of determining the best way to use $65 billion in federal funds to expand broadband access. Joining us now are Dwayne Douglas, who operates the Chicago Area Broadband Initiative and serves on the guiding team for the city's Digital Equity Council, Daniel Anello, CEO of Kids First Chicago, and Nick Feemster, a lead researcher of the University of Chicago's Internet Equity Initiative. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Nick Feemster, let's start with you, please. Your research found that in Chicago, about 80% of households are connected to the internet. But when you examine certain neighborhoods, that percentage was much lower, with 35 to 40% of homes offline in some neighborhoods. Tell us a little bit about that data and what it revealed, please.
Right. So that data actually comes from the census. And that data has been available for some time. I think what we did in that study was do that analysis neighborhood by neighborhood across Chicago, which I think casts a particular light on which neighborhoods tend to have greater levels of adoption of internet access versus those that don't. And I think slicing the data in that particular way highlights those disparities perhaps in ways that we haven't looked at before. And I think it certainly underscores the importance of the problem that Dwayne and Daniel and all of us are working on together to really bridge that gap in adoption.
Okay, and thank you for that clarification. So we know the mayor's office calls Chicago's digital divide a racial equity issue and says that on average, communities with the lowest connectivity rates are over 90% black. Dwayne Douglas, to you, is this a racial equity issue?
It is a racial equity issue. The digital divide is deeply interwoven with issues of race, education, and poverty, with awareness, affordability, and access to internet being a legacy problem that disproportionately affects people in economically disadvantaged communities. Even in areas covered by internet, people remain unconnected and not by choice. It's infrastructure, affordability, digital skills, awareness, and adoption. Most households don't have a computer. Even many individuals, unable to search for employment, acquire essential services, access schoolwork, greatly reducing their ability for self-empowerment.
And how does that, that lack of internet access, digital skills, you touched on it just now, but, how is it potentially putting someone at a disadvantage?
It puts them at disadvantages from, for example, for schoolwork. Individuals want to do schoolwork. I work with a veteran. He couldn't even complete a resume because he didn't have internet access at home. And during COVID, the libraries were closed, so he couldn't go there to get access to even complete a resume for a job. So even competing for jobs and digital skills, workforce development, it puts them at a huge disadvantage.
Daniel Anello, you and I have talked about this before, of course. When schools pivoted to remote learning in 2020, Kids First Chicago found that 1 in 5 children in Chicago lacked access to reliable in-home internet, most of those kids being Black or Latino. But they've been back at in-person learning for quite some time now. Do you have concerns that sort of relieves some of the pressure to bridge the divide when we're not in remote learning?
Yeah, actually, I do. I think one of the benefits of, if you can think of any benefits or silver linings to the pandemic, is that, we're a parent advocacy group that focuses on what parents tell us, and the internet, the digital access issue went from number 10 on the list of priorities for parents to number 1. And so for those who were wondering why we're on here, we helped the city launch a free internet program called Chicago Connected, which is now connecting 77,000 CPS students to free internet. But part of that that came out of the urgency of just what, we're talking to parents and they're telling us, what's my neighbor going to do? They don't have access. They're using their phone. They used to go outside the library, park in the parking lot, get the internet that way. And to some degree, there's a little bit of a shame on all of us for thinking that that was an okay way for people to gain access to something that the vice president just called essential, because it is, for all the reasons the folks here have already said. But I do worry that, as we go back to more in person, it just starts to slide down that list in terms of where we look at it. But in the reality, to do anything in the modern society, to Dwayne's point, you need high-speed internet, you need really good connection, and having that also means you need all the resources that come with it. You need the training to the digital equity piece, and you also need the tools like computers just to be able to get online.
So Nick Feimster, it's not just internet access that you're studying, but you're also looking at internet performance in households across Chicago. What have you already learned? What are you hoping to learn?
Right. So thanks for that question. I think, and it draws a nice extension from what the earlier question you asked me was about the census data. And to complement, I think one of the things that study pointed out is that Chicago is a patchwork of neighborhoods, and there's huge variability in what's going on from neighborhood to neighborhood. And so, unfortunately, at the moment, we just have no data about how performance of those connections vary across households, across cities, et cetera. What we know already is we know they vary. Okay, so like one of the things you can check out on our site, internetequity.uchicago.edu, is 2 households signing up for the same service tier, same ISP, can actually experience vastly different performance. And that's interesting. That's perhaps concerning, but we don't yet know why, right? That could be a whole variety of factors, everything from conditions inside the home to the type of the dwelling to the age of the modem that the subscriber is using, to the ISP, to who knows what. So what we're looking at is really, I think first we got a handle on, there is heterogeneity in that performance. There are disparities, and now we got to figure out why. And so one of the things we're working on now is improving our sample, getting more data across the city from more households across more neighborhoods so that we can better understand and explain what's really going on. Because if money is going to be spent on this, we got to figure out like where to direct it, like what part of the infrastructure.
And
so I'd invite people to participate in the study as well.
And just this week, President Biden announced that 20 internet service providers will participate in a federal program to provide discounted service to people with low incomes, pretty much making it free for people who already qualify for existing federal subsidies. Dwayne, what do you think of this initiative?
It's great. It's great. But we need to understand that the internet is not only about internet access, it's about using access to the internet to empower yourself and your community. But we all have to be connected. And these benefits are great, but they have to reach the households and understand where the actual problems exist. And some of them exist within the infrastructure of the properties within these communities, whereas they aren't wired properly to even receive broadband internet. And so those are things that we have to look into. And with our organization, we look to work with those community groups and partner with them to understand what those issues and concerns are so we can provide solutions that help to address those problems.
And Daniel, we've got 20 seconds left. Do you think we'll ever get to the place where internet is free and available to everyone?
I sure hope so. I think that there's a real cost to us if we do not, because we're focused on trying to connect students' households right now, but for every household with kids in it, there's 2 households that are disconnected in Chicago. So, there's a cost to us as a society if we're not connecting people to something so essential.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. My thanks to our guests, Daniel Anello, Dwayne Douglas, and Nick Feemster for joining us.
Thank you.
Up next, Justice Lisa Holder White, set to be the Illinois Supreme Court's first Black woman. She joins us. The state's highest court will soon have its first Black woman justice. 4th District Appellate Court Justice Lisa Holder White is set to replace Justice Rita Garman, who's retiring this summer. Holder White's term begins in July and will expire in 2024 after a full-time replacement is selected in the November 2024 elections. And Justice Lisa Holder White joins us now. Justice, congratulations on your new appointment. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, and it's my pleasure to be here. I appreciate you inviting me.
Absolutely. So you're the first Black woman to serve on the state's Supreme Court. What does it feel like to have broken that barrier?
It's very exciting. I've been asked that question quite a bit the last few days, and my response has been that it really makes me reflect on how fortunate I am, and also to reflect on the fact that there were so many who came before me who didn't have this opportunity. And so I'm very thankful and excited.
What do you think has taken so long? Why have there been so many who've come before you but didn't get this opportunity?
I don't know, but I'm glad that this barrier has been broken. And so I always look forward to the day when we don't have to say first this or first that. It's just commonplace.
So your appointment, it also comes during a historic year for the U.S. Supreme Court as well. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson becomes the first Black woman to sit on the highest court in the country. She will take the oath later. Do you think that we are making progress in diversifying positions of authority, particularly in government?
I do think we're making progress, and I think it's important to ensure that we have all perspectives and experiences represented, and particularly when you look at what percentage a certain group might be of a community or a population. And, everyone deserves to be represented.
And, speaking of representation, why is it important to have different perspectives and points of view on a court?
It's vital. And the thing about it is, on the Supreme Court, you have 7 justices, and each justice will bring with them their experiences, their professional background, and everything that makes them who they are. And so when you combine all these perspectives, there may be something that, based on your background, you're not really thinking about or doesn't seem to be an issue, and someone else with a different background will bring that to you and bring that up and, think that that is relevant to the decision. And so when we don't have all those voices, when we don't have those unique perspectives, we lose the benefit of that in making decisions.
Justice, you're also a Republican. What kind of, perspective does your political ideology, how does that factor into the decisions that you make and how you view cases that come before you?
Well, of course, Illinois is unique in how we select our judges at the circuit court level, as well as at the appellate and Supreme Court level. We are elected, and we have to declare a party affiliation to run. But as judges, who would want to live in a world where you go before a Republican judge or a Democrat judge? anyone who comes before the court deserves to be heard. They deserve to have their day in court and to have their matter resolved fairly and according to the law. And that's what my goal is as a judge, always.
Absolutely. So one of the biggest cases that the Illinois Supreme Court is hearing right now, it's Green versus the Chicago Police Department. Charles Green, who's now out of prison after serving 24 years for a 1984 quadruple murder, he's maintained his innocence. He says that he was coerced into a confession. He now wants the Chicago Police Department to release decades worth of misconduct records in an effort to clear his name. What can you say about this kind of case coming before the Supreme Court? What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, what I can say about that is one of the many things that I think it's important for us as judges to do, in addition to getting out in the community to allow them to get to know us and so that we can get to know them and have a relationship with the people that we're serving, is to educate the public with respect to our responsibilities. And as judges, unlike, there's been a lot of discussion lately about the Supreme Court of the United States not necessarily having any ethical rules that they're constrained by or that they have to follow. We in Illinois, we have rules, and those rules prohibit us from discussing pending matters or matters that may come before the court. So based on that and my adherence to those ethical standards, I really can't speak to that case.
Understood. Of course, as you said, there's been a lot of talk about the Supreme Court lately with the leak that happened with regards to Roe versus Wade. I'm sure that you also cannot discuss that case as well, but there's been a lot of talk about the role of the courts. Same thing with the 2015 Shelby v. Holder decision in changing the Voting Rights Act. Not speaking about those cases, but about the role of the courts. How do you view the role of the judicial system?
As a judge, I really view myself as a servant of the people. It is quite an honor and also quite a responsibility to resolve issues for people who come before you. And so I take that very seriously. I think people are entitled to know about decisions, have access to decisions, have their day in court and be respected and be heard. And so I view it as I'm a servant of the people, and it's my obligation and responsibility to do the very best that I can so that they do receive justice.
And before we let you go, Justice, your term ends in 2024 after the November election. Do you plan on running for that position?
I am absolutely running for the position, yes.
Okay. Best of luck to you. We'll see you
Thank
then.
you.
Thanks so much to Justice Lisa Holder-White, Designate. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Up next, the Chicago Symphony Orchestra's new composer in residence aims to diversify classical music. As her spring residency at the Chicago Symphony Orchestra comes to an end, a New York-based composer hopes her influence on contemporary classical music will be long-lasting. Arts correspondent Angel Ito introduces us to the composer in residence for the CSO.
Since she was 4 years old, Jessie Montgomery has always found music to bring her solace.
Music has always been, for me, a way out or a way through for my whole life. Music is a place where you can let your thoughts just go. You're there to just be quiet and listen and be in the space of the sound and let it wash over you. And it can be very therapeutic and very stimulating.
By age 11, Montgomery had composed her first piece. Everything that she's learned since then is what led her to the CSO, where she currently serves as the Mead Composer in Residence, a role she took on last fall.
It is an incredible opportunity right now to be a part of this community and to bring my experience as a musician, as a violinist, as a composer, as an advocate for diversity in classical music.
Some of Montgomery's pieces include Strum, Hymn for Everyone, and Overture. It's because of her work as a violinist in other orchestras that she learned how to compose for other instruments.
In order to learn how to write for the symphony, I basically had to study scores by composers that I loved, and also just kind of recalling and remembering what it feels like to sit inside of an orchestra and to hear which sounds are coming from where. Overture, that's going to be performed on May 23rd, is unique in that the whole orchestra is in unison, meaning they're playing the same rhythm the entire time. Essentially, it's the whole orchestra kind of breathing this one sort of rhythmic gesture together with the extremities of the string orchestra. We're covering a lot of space, sonic space in between within the orchestra. So that's, again, another thing that I was playing with in terms of orchestration, like what are the, how can I get the most resonance out of this ensemble?
Montgomery's works have also been played by the next generation of contemporary classical musicians, students with the Chicago Musical Pathways Initiative.
That's really the point of what I do. I make music so that it can transfer beyond the time that I'm here, and it's just very affirming to have that exchange with young people in general.
As her residency comes to an end, Montgomery says she will continue to make music as both a composer and violinist with one goal in mind.
I want people to have a new perspective on new music, that they feel they've participated in something special. There's no right way to hear music. I think that's ultimately what we do as composers. We're trying to create a space for people to both create something that they feel good about and also have a new and, open-minded experience for the audience.
For Chicago Tonight Black Voices, I'm Angel Ito.
Jessie Montgomery's Overture debuts at the Harris Theater May 23rd. Visit our website for more information. A Chicago coffee shop is seeing a boost in business as more people make an effort to support Black-owned businesses. While many companies struggled during the pandemic, Chicago French Press saw sales skyrocket. The coffee brand can now be found on Amazon and in several stores, including some Chicago area Targets, which started selling products in February. Founder and CEO Chris Christian reflects on the growth of her business and its success in tonight's The Last Word.
I'm Chris Christian, founder and CEO of Chicago French Press. I love coffee. I am very passionate about my daily routines of coffee. I can drink it in the morning, I can drink it at night.
So you can tap or insert?
I got into the coffee business by finding a solution to a problem that I was facing as a consumer. When I was in my 20s working on Wall Street, I was drinking so much coffee every day, and I would pour loads of sugar and cream into my coffee just to tolerate it. And I was thinking that I really wanted to be able to savor my cup. I had an epiphany one day that I would actually blend my coffee beans with real ingredients to achieve an authentically flavorful taste. We have unique flavors like peach nectar and chocolate blueberry, flavors that you typically haven't heard of before. And the idea is that you can really drink the coffee black. You don't need to add additional cream and sugar to it, although you can. During the pandemic, the Black Lives Matter movement and supporting Black-owned businesses was, really something that people were focused on, rightfully so because of everything that was happening within the movement. And so that really afforded us the opportunity to have new eyes and be seen and be in stores. It was a bittersweet time because it was a struggle for the economy, but at the same time we were thriving. I think in that year we were 500% higher than the year before in terms of sales. It's so exciting to see the community come out and support and be so intentional, because when you come to Chicago French Press, you have passed so many coffee shops. That's how I know that, we are supported, because you have looked us up on Google, followed us on social media, done your job to make sure that your dollars are going in the right place. And it's even influenced me to be able to not only support my business, but do the same for others, because every penny, every dollar really does matter. In the last 2 or 3 years, I didn't see a Black face or an African-American woman, definitely not owning one, but even being a consumer in the ads. And so for me, to see me and people that look like me in whatever industry, it's important that we're represented and shown, because our children are watching. I am so proud of being able to see the fruits of my labor because it has been quite a journey and we're still on it, you know, it never stops, it never ends. Being able to have the opportunity in the spaces that we've dreamed about. This was a dream, it was an idea, and really it goes to show that it takes hard work and hustle and focus to be able to see something through, and that's the most proudest thing for me, is to be able to see, you know, just the idea come to fruition.
Chicago French Press also has a store in the South Loop. Owner Chris Christian says that 5% of every bag sold supports local and national nonprofits. And that's our show for this weekend. Be sure to check out our website, WTTW.com/news, for the very latest from WTTW News. And if you're watching us on Saturday night, know that you can also catch Black Voices and Latino Voices on Sundays beginning at 10 p.m. And join me in Parashutz next week at 7 on Chicago Tonight. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight Black Voices, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thanks for sharing part of your weekend with us. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a personal injury law firm pleased to give back to the community through numerous charitable initiatives.